2 days of work completely gone. 75% through a multicolor print, and the printer throws an error that just ends it. Recovery worked for about an hour and the error came back. Now I knew I had a problem. Now if this had been another printer of mine, this video would be completely different. I would be submitting a support ticket or possibly waiting on a firmware patch. Or starting over for the third time and crossing my fingers. Instead, I fixed it myself in about 5 minutes. And the reason I could fix it is the same reason I think every single maker should care about open source. Hey, welcome back. My name is Nick, and today I want to talk about why open source matters in 3D printing. Now, I'm not saying it as a buzzword. I mean, it's an actual reason I'm not waiting on a support ticket right now. And honestly, the power error wasn't even the only problem this machine threw at me, and I'm going to get to that in just a few minutes. So here's the story. I had a Falcon model printing on the Snapmaker U1. It's a multicolor print. It uses a lot of color changes and it's very detailed. This was a multi-day print, and for a model with this type of detail, I was definitely okay with that. The first attempt ran almost all the way through, about 75% in, and the printer throws an anomaly error and shuts itself down. The message said that the mainboard MCU had detected a power off signal and the system shut down for protection, which to me was very frustrating for two reasons. One, I just lost almost 2 days of print time, and two, the filament is now a complete waste. But running this thing on the same outlet I've used with 5 other printers all running at the same time, and I've had 0 issues, so what is the actual problem? I restarted the printer and nervously resumed. The second attempt only made it about 15% before the same error came up. I'm sitting there looking at the screen and getting super bummed out because I was really excited about this printer. Because the first Falcon that was almost finished looked really great. I even removed the supports to see it up close and make sure that the quality was actually there. So now I'm wondering if I'm about to spend the next week messaging support, and honestly, I have spent that week before, which actually sometimes turns into an entire month. 3D printer support is a definite struggle. All right, now here's a sort of lay of the land. In 3D printing, manufacturers fall along a range. On one end, you've got machines that are locked completely down. Closed firmware, closed slicer, closed everything. When something breaks on a closed system, you submit a ticket and you wait, and sometimes for a very long time. Now there are good reasons why companies lock things down, and Apple is a poster child for this. On the other end, you've got machines where the company hands you the keys. The settings file is definitely accessible. The firmware is documented. If you need to change something, you can definitely do that. The Snapmaker U1 sits on that end of the spectrum. And that is the reason why this video isn't a complaint video. So I take that error code, I drop it into the Snapmaker wiki, and I find a page dedicated to specifically the exact issue that I'm having. It's called the false power off signal triggered. The link for that will be down below. The page walks you through the entire diagnosis, and in step 3, it tells you exactly what to do if the problem persists. Enable advanced mode in the printer, which is super easy. Adjust the power loss detection threshold. Advanced mode opens up the printer's config file. And yes, the actual guts of the machine are configurable. I was completely blown away. You access the entire interface through your browser at the printer's IP address. There's nothing hidden from you. Every parameter the firmware uses is right there in front of you. The default value for the power loss detection threshold is 0.022 seconds. Now the wiki says you can push it up to 0.05. I set mine to 0.04 and save the config file. You reboot the printer, reload the print, let her rip. And can you guess what happened? The printer finished all the way through without a hiccup. 2 days, 4-color Falcon completely done. And as you can see right there. Then I pushed the U1 even harder. I fired up 2 more printers on the same circuit, 3 running all at once, no errors, no anomaly, no shutdowns. Whatever was happening, the threshold tweak handled that problem. It only took 5 minutes of my time, and that was it. And the Falcon isn't the only thing I've been running on this machine. The Toucan came out great. It's a Varani style model. Although I missed some of the settings when I ran it, the supports are all on the inside of it, which is not a big deal to me. I can pick them out later. So make sure you always check the slicer preview before you send your multicolor print. Now here's the thing. The printer air wasn't the only problem I fixed on the U1. The other one was the noise. The tool head changes on this machine are a little loud. You hear them from the next room for sure, and I was able to hear it when I was laying in bed. It's definitely louder than a single head tool printer, but comparing it to my H2C, the noise is pretty in line. For me, the fix was a third-party top from BIQU called the PopCap, and that's what this is right here. It's a thick, clear acrylic top with a magnetic door that lets you reach inside without fully opening the lid. And it cuts the sound by about 15 decibels. It normally runs about 170 bucks. I've seen it drop to about 140 to 150 depending on the sale. And that link will be down in the description. Now let's go ahead and back up a little bit, because if you're walking away from this video thinking open source matters because Nick fixed his printer, I'd be selling this printer short. That is definitely one reason to be excited about the U1. In the maker community, there's a saying, your printer, your choice. And since all of these new laws have been hitting the states, like New York and California, I've been seeing a lot more of this lately. If you want to know more about all of that, I have 3 videos on this topic, and the link will be dropped down below. Now this is going to bring us to the next topic, intellectual property. If you design your own models for business, where do those designs go when you hit print? And this actually matters. Are they staying local? Are they getting sent to a server somewhere? Who has access to your files once they leave your machine? Have you actually ever checked? Because if the answer is, I have no idea, that's worth knowing about. Now, to be fair, a lot of modern printers, including some of the closed ones, do offer a LAN mode that keeps your files local, which includes Bambu Lab. But the more open the system, the more clearly you can see where the data actually lives. Now, personally, I'm not a Clipper expert. If you don't know what Clipper is, in short, it's an open source 3D printer firmware. I don't write firmware, but in my situation, I edited a printer's config file and I fixed a problem support couldn't have done any faster. That wasn't because I'm a programmer, that's because the manufacturer gave me access. Now check this out. Snapmaker actually went a step further. They even published the source code for the U1 firmware on GitHub. Custom firmware versions exist that add features the stock printer doesn't actually have, possibly only because the code is actually there and developed freely. The U1 that I'm using is mainly a multicolor PLA and PETG machine, and I plan to use it for all my fun multicolor decor projects and gifts. I'm not running engineering filaments on it. It's earning a spot as my multicolor printer in my home. Now, if you follow my channel, you know I also have a Bambu Lab H2C, a complete different machine. The U1 and the H2C handle multicolor completely different. The U1 runs 4 independent tool heads, each with its own filament loaded and ready to go. A tool head swap takes about 5 seconds with no filament unloading or reloading between colors. The H2C uses a dual nozzle setup with a vortex changing system. Both work and get the job done, just different architectures. Now, color count is one of the main differences. That's where the U1 takes a hit. It's capped out at 4 colors. For my Falcon and Toucan models, 4 colors came out perfectly fine. For more detailed work, like the Mario prints I've shown on this channel before, 4 colors just isn't enough. That's where the H2C earns its keep with 7 colors. What the U1 gives you back is speed. Color changes actually happen faster on the U1 than they do with the H2C. For the 4 color prints I run on this machine, that's a pretty big difference. I hope that Snapmaker eventually builds a bigger U1 model with more tool heads, and I can bet you it's already in the work. Now let's go ahead and go back where I mentioned the Snapmaker marketplace was a little thin, because Snapmaker launched something called the Innovation Fund, and it's $150,000 going to the community developers to build the software, hardware, and workflows for the U1. One of the projects they're already sponsoring is called the Full Spectrum. It takes the U1's 4 filaments and generates over 100 intermediate colors by altering them layer by layer. Now the good news is, it has already launched on version 2.3.4 beta of the Snapmaker Orca. Now I think this is really awesome. The U1 4-color limit was lifted and a workaround in the software by the community. that entire chain only exists because the system is open. All right, so who is the U1 for? If multicolor printing is a big part of your 3D printing plan, this one should be on your list. Print quality holds up against the competition. Setup was simple. I had 0 hiccups, and I have an entire walkthrough for this. The open source ecosystem turned the power error into a 5-minute fix instead of a week of waiting on support. Now, things I wish were different. The 4-color cap is a real limit for the models that I like to print. My Mario characters need a minimum of 7 colors, and even sometimes 8 or 9 would be nice. I can only accomplish this with my H2C currently. The Snapmaker marketplace is still finding its feet, but I see Snapmaker making a huge effort to build this. I really do think that the top on the Snapmaker U1 should be a standard with this machine, and I think that most people won't realize they need it until the printer is running in their home. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, my name is Nick. I hope that you're having a great day, and as always, happy printing.